Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We have a brand new episode of Buy or Bust for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the Dormammu, the brand new Series 5 card that puts 3 different rituals in your hands at different times, kind of, sort of. This card's got a lot of hype around it, and I think it kind of does live up to the hype. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into what we got going on with Dormammu. We're going to break down the card, show some animations, what it looks like on screen. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the floor, the ceiling. I got 3 decks for you guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So in case you guys did not know, brand new Series 5 card, Dormammu, is a 7-cost, 11-power card with the ability at game start, begin a summoning ritual, and add step 1 to your hand. Which step 1 is going to be a 0-cost card. On reveal, will emerge your highest power destroyed card with Dormammu to continue. This means it has to be a card in your graveyard. That is the only way it counts as a destroyed card. So it will not work with like an X-23, a Deadpool, a Wolverine. Those cards will not count. Even Sabretooth, if you're playing Sabretooth, I guess, does not count as a destroyed card. This is a 0-cost card, so you can destroy cards and play this on the same exact turn to be able to get to the next step. Which the next step is going to be number 2, Summoning Ritual number 2, step 2, which is a 1-cost card. On reveal, Dormammu steals 1 power from each card here to continue, meaning it could be one of your cards, an entire line of your opponent's cards. All it has to do is steal power from a card for you to be able to move on to the next step. It is not limited just to your cards or your opponent's card. It is each card, so it means both sides of the board. After that, you go to step 3, which step 3 is going to be on reveal, destroy 2 of your characters here to summon Dormammu. Because you know spells cannot destroy other spells, you have to destroy 2 characters here. If you do not meet this criteria of destroying 2 characters, this will not be completed. After step 3 is completed, you are summoning Dormammu to the board. So immediately after this on reveal goes off, Dormammu then appears on the board. So you don't have to play Dormammu. 7-power card you don't have to play. You don't have to wait for a magic. It's not like Airsham. So this automatically will play the card for you and just put it on the board. So which is really nice. Of course, you're playing this probably in some sort of like destroy style thing. But I want to note, when it comes to this, I don't think you have to turn 2 have a card destroyed or be on the step by turn 3. I think you can kind of slow roll this a little bit and build up to this, especially if you're not wanting to have priority also on turn 5 or 6 for Dormammu to get destroyed. I think this is something you can kind of tempo out and like a little bit later, opposed to on curve have to do everything to get this done. Like you can destroy a card and then play the first step at the same exact time. Like you could start this on turn 4 and then have 5 and 6. Of course, you have to have the energy, but like if you do this on turn 4, like the step 1 on turn 4, you then bring out, you know, Dormammu gets extra power. Then turn 5, you play the step 2, which takes away 1 power from your side and your opponent's side, of course. Or it could be just your side or just your opponent's side, just depending on what it is. And then you would just turn 6 be playing Dormammu. Just something to keep in mind. I think that's the way it can kind of go. These are what the animations look like on screen. It is going to go in chronological order on how everything is going to appear, which I think is really interesting. This card has a lot of awesome animation when it comes to just like the game design for this card. Like it's really cool that, you know, this is a card we've been talking about for ages now and we're finally getting into a game and they made it really awesome in game. But let's go ahead and talk about some key counters and some key synergies for this card. So first and foremost, one of the key synergies that you've seen Rez talk about, you've seen Drew talk about, and I agree, is going to be Nico Minoru. Nico, of course, has the destroy spell. Also, it is a good body on the board if you're playing like a classic destroy, that if you destroy Nico, she will go to your graveyard. She's not like the Wolverine, you know, Deadpool kind of thing. So, like, Dormammu gets 2 power from this. Yes, you're maybe like, well, I want Dormammu to get more power. But at the end of the day, as long as you just have a card in your graveyard to be able to get value, to be able to get that power onto Dormammu and get to the next step, I think that is just more important. So you have Nico for that. Nico, of course, also has the destroy factor with, you know, the spell. And then death, you're destroying a bunch of cards here. You're at least destroying 1 card with Nico, or 1 card to in step 1, so that's already 1 discounted off of death, and then you destroy 2 cards with the third step of this, you know, the ritual, which of course then discounts death another 2. And then I think also Null. Null is a great card because whatever you're destroying, Null does get that power, and you're probably also destroying cards that your opponents have on the board too, so you should be getting value with like a Killmonger kind of thing too, which is just really solid. Null is no longer, I guess, technically the big bad of Destroy. Now it is going to be Kid Omega. But in all seriousness, it's going to be, you know, Null, and then you have Dormammu. You can kind of, I think, still play them in the same style deck. I don't think you kind of have to take a break from that, which is really interesting to know. I think they kind of just go hand in hand. But moving on to the counters, of course, we're going to have Cosmo. You know, the spells are on reveals, so Cosmo stops the spells from happening, and if the on reveals don't go off, you don't get any of that Dormammu value. So, you know, those spells just happen and then they go away. Nothing actually happens. They're banished forever. Also, Juggernaut. So, it's really interesting to note here with Juggernaut. Juggernaut can offset what you're trying to do with the spells. So, like, maybe you're trying to destroy 2 cards in this lane. You Juggernaut those spells away, and if they only have 1 card in the lane, the spell destroys 1 card, and then you don't get Dormammu on the board, so it kind of offsets the combo there. Also, if you're trying to take power away from cards, like, you know, Juggernaut can offset, you know, being able to take power from the cards in that lane you were specifically thinking about. So this card can be kind of crazy there too. Not necessarily like the best counter, but it's something I feel like I haven't seen people talk about too much. This is a counter, I mean, to spells in general. Like this, of course, does offset stuff because Juggernaut's still just great as is. And then, of course, armor, because, you know, it's destroy cards. You know, your spell 3, if they armor your spell 3 lane, you know, the 3rd step, you can't destroy anything, so you don't get Dormammu on the board for free. I guess not for free, but for 3. But let's go ahead and talk about the good and the bad for this card as well. So starting off with the good. What's really cool about the steps in general is you don't have to draw the steps, and they automatically start into your hand. So you're not missing a draw when you have these, you know, starting in your hand with Dormammu. Dormammu, of course, doesn't start in your hand, which also I think is pretty good. That doesn't, you know, count as a draw. If it maybe didn't count as a draw, like Agatha would be interesting too. But you also don't have extra cards in your deck, which I think is great. And like proactively, as the spells go off and you complete the steps, they automatically get back into your hand with a new spell. So you don't have to wait for a draw, which I think is really, really nice. And then, yeah, Dormammu is a 7-cost card at base, but if you can just get him on the board with the spells, he's not going to cost 7. He might technically cost more because you might be doing more to get Dormammu on the board, but at face value, he is potentially just a 4-cost card. I'm thinking more probably like a 5-cost if you're, you know, also having to destroy stuff, or, you know, could be even the 6 or 7 there, but you're not having to expel 7 energy just for 1 card on a singular turn is what I think is very beneficial when it comes to the good of this card. And then, of course, you know, it's a new alternate destroy line. It does, you know, synergize with Null because you are destroying cards in order to get Dormammu on the board and to be able to get value in that sense. And I feel like you can also maybe play a variety of different destroy lists instead of just one similar, like, just classic like, linear kind of list is what I was trying to say there. You can have a bunch of different options, which I like. And then lastly, of course, it does afflict and destroy. You know, step 2, you know, it can afflict power, you know, negative power to your enemies or yourself. And then you have the destroy function of step 3. You automatically destroy 2 other cards here. What's cool about like the destroy the 2 other cards, those cards don't have to stay in your graveyard to count as destroys. You could destroy like an X-23 and a Wolverine there because then those cards are destroyed. It's just not a, like, step 1, you have to have a card in your graveyard. Moving on to the bad, Destroy is a very counterable archetype. I say it wrong like every single time. Which, like, normally is very predictable. So, like, especially during this week, which is going to really stink because Dormammu is going to be really fun, is there going to be people just running counters. And they're just going to be running that armor. They're going to be running that Cosmo. You know, they're just going to be trying to mess up all the people trying to have fun. So it's going to be a really rough week, probably week 1 for Dormammu. And then you do have to have a card in your graveyard to start a ritual, which I think also, like, at the same time, you can do same turn like I was talking about. Since the ritual, step 1, costs 0, you can destroy cards the same turn and play the ritual on the same exact turn to be able to get to the next step, which is good that you don't have to wait another turn like you would with Elixir. Yikes. So just something to keep in mind there, which I think is actually pretty beneficial. It is a bad, but I think also there's like a way around that. And then, yeah, I think Cosmo literally can offset the entire just premise of Dormammu. One singular card. Of course, you know, it's just one singular card, right? You know, Mobius, you know, affects negative and everything too. But if you do get hit with a Cosmo and your rituals are in a Cosmo lane, all the stuff you were trying to do, down the drain, because then you don't get any of the value there. Of course, you can still play out Dormammu at face value at 7 cost, but you're not able to just get him on the board like, you know, you're probably really wanting to, opposed to playing a 7 cost card. And it is combo heavy. Like, you do have to work for this. And destroy as it is, yes, it is, very countable, and it maybe is easy, but it's still combo heavy. Like, if you don't have the right curve, or you don't have the right pieces in play, like, it's going to be pretty rough for you to be able to get the extra value you've been really hoping for, because a lot of cards right now that people are playing are a lot of big powered cards. And to play destroy into those matchups, you have to get big cards as well. Like, think about all the nightmare you guys are seeing this past week. Like, those are just big cards with random abilities and stuff too, but they're big cards, and like, you have to get, that Dormammu on the board potentially to be big to get value. You have to kind of find a way to get death on the board. Null is also an added bonus, but like, I feel like you have to have just good cards and like good synergy and stuff in general. And right now, if you don't have that with destroy, you're going to lose a lot of matchups. So I'm hoping this also kind of helps destroy a little bit. Moving on to the floor and the ceiling of Dormammu. I'm thinking on the top end, successfully, you complete all of your rituals, which is 4 costs just for the rituals. That's what I'm talking about themselves. You have all the power of the card that you took out of your graveyard to give to Dormammu, which it does target the highest powered card destroyed. You also have the power stolen from each card in step 2, and then the 11 base power on Dormammu. So Dormammu could be huge. He could maybe not be huge. It just depends on, what happened situationally in that game. But then you also just get Dormammu on the board. You don't have to play the 7-cost card out on that turn. You just get their step 3 ritual done, and boom, Dormammu on the board. That is the ceiling for this card. Now the floor is, this card just stays 7/10. Like, you don't get any value from any of the rituals. This is just a 7-cost card either in your deck or in your hand, because it just doesn't matter where Dormammu is. Also, fun fact, with the summoning ritual, it doesn't matter if it's in your hand or if it's in your deck. Dormammu gets onto the board there as step 3. And then also, I guess on the low end too, you could have the power you gain from completing step 1 if you play him out at 7 cost. And potentially, if you've gotten all the way to step 2, you could have the power from the cards you've stolen from, You could have that to have Dormammu value, which of course, like, that's a potentially random number. It could be upwards of extra 8 power onto Dormammu, or low end extra 1 power on Dormammu. So something to keep in mind, but you're still playing him out at 7 cost there. So, well, that's kind of just what I thought about with the floor and the ceiling. But let's go ahead and move on over to the decks. The first deck I have over here is going to be Token Ritual. So I was thinking Token Destroy actually could be pretty interesting in this. Of course, this is a lot of bodies for you to be able to destroy. And of course, step 1 does target the highest body. And then it's a lot of bodies on the board as well. So it is possible you could do like a Nico or a Squirrel Girl into Carnage into step 1. Like, this is if you want to get Dormammu on the board really early. Like, really, really early. Because in that sense, right, you get Nico, or you have Squirrel Girl, or you have Uncle Ben. You have Carnage destroy one of those, even Hydra Bob. And then you have, of course, this Summoning Ritual step 1, and then you get one of those cards, boom, power straight into Dormammu, you're on to step 2. And then with step 2, you can kind of maybe wait a little bit or not. It really just depends on what you're doing. But you have Killmonger to clean up some of these 1-drops that could get hit from, step 2 of the Summoning Ritual, which clears them off the board, so you don't have that negative power on the board, or negative afflicted power on the board for yourself, which gives you death value. And then with, step 3, if you use that maybe on a Bucky Barnes or an Uncle Ben there, that gives you 2 additional tokens on the board, which could help you with Mockingbird value. You could also use it with Shanna stuff. So, like, you're using Dormammu kind of as, like, a top-end piece here. In the situation, you also have Venom and Carnage. I think there's a world where you do have X-23 in this list, so you do just have extra energy to work with. While X-23 doesn't go back into your, your deck, or go back into your hand, or go into your graveyard, mainly what I'm trying to say, it doesn't go into your graveyard at all. Having extra energy, no, more often than not, is good, unless you're facing Red Hulk, of course. But, like, not everyone's running Red Hulk right now anyways. But I'm just saying X-23 could be good. That is generally what I'm saying, is X-23 could be good in this type of list as well, but this is one of the first things where my head went. But moving on to this list here, I do have Hydra Bob in 2 different lists. But I do want to note, while you might be thinking, why are you playing like Classic Destroy like this? Why are you, like, I don't have Wolverine in this list. I think you could have Wolverine in this list, but I'm thinking about ample bodies that you want destroyed. Nico, Hydra Bob are 2 bodies to start off with that if they're destroyed, some good power to Dormammu. But, like, I'm also thinking, which is why I brought up, you don't have to play the Dormammu, like, rituals on curve. You could set this up in such a way that you're destroying Carnage. And since, step 1 targets the highest powered card destroyed, getting a Carnage card's value onto your Dormammu going into step 2 could be very nice. And then step 2 is only a 1-cost card as well. And with that in mind, you can get value in that sense too. And if you're destroying stuff repeatedly and you're getting this X23 value and stuff, you're going to summon Dormammu. You're going to have a way to play Null out. You might even have a potentially big Deadpool. Like, it really just depends on how you set up your lanes. Like, there's a lot of value in a lot of these different areas that I think can actually work, like, really well. I think, like, Classic Destroy can be a home for Dormammu. Like, you just have to have a card in your graveyard. And not every card, of course, is going to go into your graveyard in Classic Destroy. But, like, that's all it is. And I think that's the hardest part for Classic Destroy is step one, is just having a card in your graveyard. And if you can just get that done, whether that is a Nico, whether that is a Bob, or maybe it is just a Carnage, or even like a Deathlock Killmonger kind of thing. I mean, in a perfect world, you're going to have Kid Omega in here probably instead of Deathlock. But I think overall, this is kind of one of the homes I think is going to go really well with it. And maybe you just don't have Hydra Bomb in here. Maybe you can just still go the Wolverine route. And then you have Nico as a body, or one of your other destroy cards, whether it is Carnage, whether it is Killmonger, whether it is Kid Omega, as one of those cards destroyed, getting that power onto Dormammu, I think is a pretty good shout. And I think you can get Dormammu on that way, and you can still play like Classic Destroy. Next we have like kind of more of a mill style destroy list. We do have Gladiator in this list, but I'm still not sold on Gladiator right now in this nightmare heavy meta with all these big cards people are playing. It's like playing Gladiator into Hela. Like, it just feels funky and maybe not necessarily something you want to do. You do have magic to extend the game, to get extra turns, which, of course, you do need to keep in mind. Merlin still is very popular right now. People are starting to play some Legion and stuff, too. Thanos is still running around, so Reality Stone still is also a situation you need to worry about. So there's different ways for people to be able to turn off Limbo, but I have it as another opportunity to get better value, to get potentially Death and Dormammu same turn kind of thing on different maybe sides of the board, or just play them out together because you have extra turns to be able to get the rituals down. But you have the Hood, you have Yondu as two different 1-drops, and then of course you do have Fenris Wolf in case you've destroyed stuff. You do have Shang-Chi to be able to bring them back as well. You have Misery, you have Fire here to get value out of some of these cards. You know, Baron Zemo or Gladiator getting destroyed by Misery. It does give you death value and are big cards for Dormammu. I think there's a world where you maybe do Tech Null back into this list, especially if you are going to Misery like a Gladiator or a Zemo. But I think you kind of just have to wave around there, or maybe you do like a Mercury Cannonball kind of thing too. But I think you can play Millwood Dormammu. I don't know necessarily if this is the right home, but I think this could be a good home for Dormammu to get extra value. So you're not just really dependent on getting either good cards from your opponents or just having all this power, on the board kind of thing. I'm just thinking about it like in that way. I think I don't necessarily want Mill to be like a really good archetype because it's so annoying to face, because it's just the worst to face, like losing all your cards. You can't play anything. The interactiveness of it just is a major feels bad. But I think Dormammu probably does have a home in Mill. It's just about formulating the right Mill deck. But let's go ahead and talk about some of my final thoughts on Dormammu. So I do think that Dormammu is a fairly strong card. I think this week's going to be pretty tough for him. That's why I kind of have him at 3 stars for this week. I think in general, he might be stronger on like a 3.5, a 4-star strength way. It just really depends on how clunky it feels and what you're messing around with, what your pocket meta is. But fun scale, 5 stars, easily is a 5-star card. But I don't think this is necessarily the most flexible card. And I don't think that this card necessarily will be adjusted. I don't think it's too strong. If it is too weak, I think they might make it better because you are investing a lot into this. Granted, another card that I thought was going to be, really good and that you're investing a lot into also was Infinity Ultron, and look at where Infinity Ultron's at now. It's okay, but like there's still a lot of work that needs to be done with Infinity Ultron too to make that card like, truly like viable and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see, but like I do think this card is going to be a buy. I think this card is going to be pretty good. I know I'm talking about all the combo heaviness, and I think this card is very hyped up, and I'm here for the hype for this card. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think you're going to get some really funky plays, and I think this card can be good. I think comparing this to like an Infinity Ultron, I think it's going to have more versatility than like an Infinity Ultron, in the sense like the RNG aspects of Infinity Ultron are really reliant on what stones you draw, Whereas this, you kind of know what you're destroying, or you have a more general idea of what's going to happen, which I think is what's really beneficial to this. You're going to have the RNG of how big is my Dormammu going to be, and will I be able to get this in a lane where it doesn't get chunk cheat? I think it's more of the practicality, or what I'm seeing as logistically there. But I think this is going to be a good card, and I think it's going to be really fun, and I can't wait to see what happens. Let me know what you guys have prepped for Dormammu, and let me know what you guys would change in some of these lists too, because like when I make these lists, I try and make them as thorough as possible, but like sometimes they feel more like a rough draft, and I think a lot of it when it comes to like these type of videos that we do, like it's a lot of theory crafting, which is why I also want to say, like, at the end of the day, like, spend the resources the way you want to spend them, you know, like Kid Omega situation, and you know, this is after we have found out from the game news that they're just standing on business. They're doubling down. They're giving us 2,500 extra volts, but like Kid Omega is going to cost gold no matter what, and we're going to have cards like that in the future that are just they're going to cost gold no matter what. And we're going to have to wait another month, which is why, like, at the same time, I still want to continue saying, spend your resources the way you want to spend them. If you want to spend gold and get Kid Omega, do it because that's what you want to do. Like, our resources are our resources. Yes, I am totally also in agreement. If you guys want to boycott, you can feel free to boycott. But I don't think we should be placing blame on other people for spending their resources on, like, the new cards and stuff, because that's what they want to do. That's what they enjoy playing. And like, especially content creators, like they need content. So like, and if less people have the card, it's more content for them to be able to make. They, like, us as content creators don't want people not to have cards. Yes, it helps with content because the pool is smaller for content there, but that's not at all what it is. I want Kid Omega right now to be able to test with them, but I'm not spending the gold. I'm going to spend the gold eventually, like once we get to like the last couple of days of Kid Omega, like the high voltage overdrive game mode, because then he's going to be his cheapest because I'll have the more volts. But it just feels bad right now. But Dormammu, it feels like they go hand in hand, and they were really going to synergize together, so that makes it feels worse. So that's where they're going to try and get you with the FOMO, which is why I'm saying spend your resources the way you want to spend them. If you want to spend money on Snap, spend money on Snap. If you don't want to spend money on Snap and just say down with second dinner, okay. Like, it is totally okay to feel that way. If that's the way you feel, we don't have to argue about it, you know? Like, we all have our own different opinions about what we have going on here. I was super excited for Kid Omega. He literally is the definition of, like, one of the cards I would love. You know, I love playing Phoenix Force. I love playing Destroy. I played a lot of Nimrod way back in the day when he was still 5 power. So I totally get it, and I understand, you know, the whole feels bad about it, because it is a feels bad. This is a free-to-play game, but now it's definitely not a free-to-play game. Yes, you know, cards in the past have also been behind paywalls and stuff too, but like they've been obtainable. But like this is just a bigger slap in the face than ever before, which is why I want to say, you know, I can be wrong about cards. The community can be wrong about cards. You know, at the end of the day, we are still theory crafting. We don't know exactly if this is going to work the way I think it's going to work. This week, we also are going to have a patch and an OTA, so stuff can change. You know, anything really can happen when it comes to this new card and this new week of stuff. And we have another week left after the season, after this, with Clea's week. So we'll see what's happened there. You know, manage your resources the way you want to manage your resources. Buy what you want to buy. Don't buy what you don't want to buy. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad as a community we still are standing together, and we still are loving Marvel Snap, just not loving what is happening with, you know, the monetization of Marvel Snap. And I think, like, I love the community we have here on YouTube, which, by the way, if you guys aren't subscribed, definitely subscribe. Hit that like button. If you want to hit that notification bell, sure, hit that notification bell. We're posting more videos a week. I really appreciate it. And I do want to say thank you guys for all the love and support recently. It really does mean a lot. We tried something different with a Nightmare video, and you guys enjoyed the Nightmare video. And I think I'm going to try and do stuff like that, probably for, like, the new card of the week stuff, my, like, takes on it, and, like, what I think actually goes well with it after doing testing. I feel like that'd actually be really fun. And if that's something you enjoy watching, let me know down below if you guys like that style of content, or if you guys think I should just do deck guides on that card. Which deck guides, they're fun, but, like, the theory crafting and stuff after, like, playing with the cards, I think I like a lot more. But anyway, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you did stick around at the very end, let me know down below by commenting what is your guys' favorite candy. I know it's a random question, but what's your guys' favorite candy? But until next time, it's been real. God bless, and Tucker out.